tell you what, you make me a promise in front of the goddamn priest, and I will stick around.
Promise you what?
I do this for you, and we're even. We are good. I don't have to keep looking over my shoulder.
I think that Negan feels that as much as he doesn't trust Maggie, as much as he feels that she hates him and wishes him ill, I do think he senses that she's a straight shooter in some ways. There's an aspect to Negan that's like that too. I mean, like, Negan is a tricky individual, but you can't really say that he's much of a liar. You kind of wish, man, if they could only see eye to eye, they could actually be a very, very powerful team. But you understand why they don't, of course. The interesting thing is Maggie's like kind of response to him asking for a promise is just to kind of look at him and be almost like amused darkly about the fact that he'd take a promise from her. Negan used to be a gym teacher. He's always had this kind of patience with children. I think he likes to teach.
You ready?
This is not fun.
Well, not with that attitude.
If you really think about like what he's doing when he's monologuing all the time, even when he was the villain, he was trying to teach people about his philosophy of the world. For us as writers, it makes all the sense in the world that he would actually be a pretty decent coach and know how to sort of like motivate and be like, you're doing great. Because I actually think that that is pretty fundamental to who he is.
You did good, Maggie.
Maggie hates that she needs Negan to help her with anything. She's used to being good at what she does, and she certainly doesn't like to be bad at what she does in front of him. One of my favorite scenes is this scene where Maggie and Negan talk about what happened in the past, kind of where they are now. Negan brings up the attack in the satellite station, wiping out this entire group of saviors. We know that those saviors were doing bad things and were doing harm to people, but at the same time, to our characters, what's interesting is like these were just nameless, faceless people that they felt like they'd go in and kill. And I think from Negan's perspective, those were people that wanted to live their lives. Like, they had families. There was that baby Gracie. Once you start like looking at it and you flip the view, it does change some things. There were still human beings that lost their lives in that. One of the things that we always try to remember in the show is that with any villain, there is still a humanity there. There's still a person at the bottom of it all. It can be a very, very evil person, but there's still a person, and they're connected to other people who, for whatever reason, have decided that this is the best path to go down. We did talk about, like, does Negan regret what he did with Glenn? Like, does he regret that? And I don't think he does. I think he thinks that was the right strategic move.
Yeah, if I could do it all over again, I'd have killed every single one of you.
If he's thinking of how could I have preserved what I had, he should have wiped them all out. His problem was he kept liking them and not wanting to kill more. So if he had wanted to win that war, he probably should have wiped out everybody in that line, because they were all leaders who rose up against him. And that's a very, very dark position. But at the same time, you know, as they're on the brink of going in against these people and they're talking about, do we just sneak in and take the food, or do we have to do something more? He's kind of saying, let's be real here about what we're talking about on this mission.
You are about to do some crazy shit and break into a community that you built and lost. I get it.
One of the things we've been dealing with Father Gabriel is just his relationship to faith over the course of years. And I think one of the things that we've really held on to with him is that he continues to wear that collar. Even during times when things are terrible, he has tried to hold on to his faith. But he's definitely been feeling like he doesn't hear God anymore. It's something that bothers him. And I just thought it was really interesting as we were talking about this sort of religious figure that would be embedded with the Reapers. And they have their own interpretation of religion. We wanted to deal with a group that has a very particular way in which they feel that they are chosen and what they choose to do with it. And I think for Gabriel, who is struggling and trying to find that feeling he once felt when he was just sort of a young priest starting out, he's definitely taken aback by seeing this person who seems to be just actively talking to God and at least is acting like he hears God's voice. And what does that mean to Gabriel? And it almost feels like a sign to him in some way.
You have guided me through the darkest of times. I treasure our conversation and the guidance you have given me. Thank you, Father.
One of the things we wanted to show in this story is that Leah, she's an independent thinker. I think she is used to following orders, and we know that she feels like Pope gave her the family that she has and believed in her when nobody else believed in her, and we think that that's really important. And so she has this loyalty to him, and I think in some ways, like, this is a story of a frog boiling in a pot. The water has just gotten slowly hotter and hotter over time, and your sense of what is normal and acceptable, like, the line just starts to move, but it moves so slowly that you don't notice it until suddenly, like, the guy's locking you in a burning room and you're like, that seems off, right? And I think, like, Daryl is right there trying to feel out, like, is that the real you? Like, does this feel like normal behavior to you? And I think, like, in that way, he's testing her and seeing, like, whether she's somebody that could help him in this. And he doesn't know, like, he's trying to work it all out. You know, I don't think he has a whole lot of trust in her at this point since she's with this group. But they come across this young father, and Leah has this very just sort of like emotional reaction to it, and she defies Pope's order to kill them.
You need to take your son and run. Don't ever come back here.
In that moment, Daryl is starting to see that he was not wrong. She does still have this emotional core, the part of her that he thought was sweet and cared about protecting people. I think he's looking for those clues that tell him whether or not he can bring her in on what he's doing.